My name's Gilbert Smith, and welcome to Bradenton, Kiwanis. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now could you please join me in singing the My Country 'Tis of Thee. My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. Mr. Ed Cleveland, would you come up and give our invocation for us?
Thank you, Judge. Would you join me in prayer? Father, we thank you for the opportunity we have to assemble today on this beautiful Florida day. We thank you, Father, for the privilege of being a Kiwanian and for the Bradenton Kiwanis Club, for what it does for the children and for this community. We thank you, Father, for this wonderful assembly of guests that we have with us today, for the agriculture and the people that they represent that make this community strong agriculturally. Father, we pray that as the program is presented today, we will leave here refreshed and knowledgeable about all the good things that are happening in Manatee County. And now, Father, for the food that is before us and that we have consumed, will you bless it to our good and us to your service? In Christ, and we'll ask it. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ed, and please be seated. Thank you for being here today. We are overjoyed with the big turnout we have, and so we thank you for being here. This is Farm City Week. This is a special luncheon this club has put on for some time. You're going to hear more about that later. And this club has been supporting agriculture since it was established in 1922. This is our 99th year. And this brings us all together to support agriculture in our community. I do have a few announcements I need to make for club. The Boys and Girls Club Christmas tree sales is Saturday, November 27th, Sunday, December 5th, and you can sign up on PortoBuzz. The Salvation Army Angel Tree returns to the hall, and those have to be by December 7th. We only have 3 left, so somebody, if we could have some people pick those up, would be helpful. And then the Salvation Army ringing December 10th and 11th, and then the wreath laying December 18th. The Christmas party for the Bradenton Kiwanis is December 14th at the hall. We're not going to have a meeting November 23rd, the week of Thanksgiving, next week. And we do have a club board meeting tomorrow, November 17th at the pier. Now, many guests will be introduced to you later. However, we have with us Florida Cattleman's sweetheart, Elaine Mason. Elaine? And also Manatee County's Cattleman's sweethearts, Shelby Davis. Thank you for being here. And now I'm going to introduce Crystal Snodgrass with the Manatee County Extension Director. She's going to take over from here.
Thank you very much. So I am standing in for Ms. Brenda Rogers, your very own, and I have the pleasure of introducing our 2021 Farm City Week theme, and that is Agriculture Pathways to Preservation. And if I could draw your attention to the little card on the table, you've got a little infographic there, and you can see some statistics about Manatee County agriculture. Many of you are very familiar how big of an industry agriculture is here in Manatee County. Farm City Week was first established by Kiwanis International to celebrate the farm and emphasize the impact of agriculture on the local economy. It has been celebrated in Manatee County since 1955 for 66 years, and there is always a luncheon that's held by Bradenton Kiwanis. So I'm going to introduce some very important people today. And first, I would like to introduce individually our past agriculturalists of the year who are able to join us today. Okay, from 2020, we have Mr. Coley Rowell. If you could stand to be recognized. Welcome. From 2018, Mr. John Hamilton. – 2017, Mr. Mitchell John. 2015, Priscilla Wisenant Trace. 2014, Mr. Buddy Keene. 2012, Mr. Irvin Shannon. 2010, Jim Strickland. 2007, Miss Betty Glassburn. 2005, Mr. Jim Parks. And 1996, Mr. John Peachy. Okay, and as a group, I would like to introduce our elected officials that are able to join us today. Thank you so much for being here. If you could all stand up and be welcomed. And I heard our sheriff is in the house, so welcome Sheriff Rick Wells. Somewhere. I heard he was here. Undercover. Absolutely. Okay, and next I would like to introduce our Farm City Week Committee. If you could stand and be recognized, please. And these folks have worked tirelessly to make sure the events of the week go off without a hitch. So thank you all for all of your hard work during this week. Next, I'd like to introduce our 2021 Leadership Manatee class. Please stand and be recognized. And they will be joining me tomorrow on our Ag Day tour. We'll be visiting local farms, 4 local farms, so we're really excited about that. Next, I would like to introduce Miss Judy Anderson. She is our 2021 Manatee County Hall of Fame inductee. Please stand, Miss Judy. Thank you. Okay, next I would like to introduce Mr. Mike Ingram, who's the president of our Farm City Week Committee. If you would like to come up and say a few words, please.
Thank you, Crystal. It's a privilege to be here today, and as it was already mentioned, Bradenton Kiwanis has been around for almost 100 years now, and their accomplishments are legendary throughout our county. But one of my favorites occurred in 1955 when they planted the seed for Farm City Week, and we're alive and well here in 2021. If you've been around Manatee County for a little while or have grown up, your roots are probably connected to agriculture. In the late 1890s, my grandfather came here as a teenager to grow tomatoes with his older brothers. But he also experienced the freeze of 1895, so decided that he perhaps should have a backup vocation. Went to the University of Kentucky and came back with a medical degree. Dr. Brown, when he returned, he went to Sarasota and was there several years before the call of the tomato was just too strong. And he returned to Palmetto and opened a medical practice and stayed very close to agriculture his entire life. We still have a few events left this week. We have the Leadership Manatee Tour. We have Thursday, we have the Ag Ventures, and this is exciting. If you've ever seen 1,000 third graders all together in one spot, this is where you want to come out to. However, with COVID, we're cut back a little bit this year. We only have 400, but 21 presenters. So we're very excited about introducing agriculture vocation to the young people of Manatee County. We have also the farm tour, which is a little different this year because of COVID as well. It's a self-driving tour. We all meet out at Dry Prairie, and then we move on to West Coast Tomatoes. We go to Wish Farms, to Dry Prairie, and then we'll finish up at Granger Farms. So it is truly exciting week ahead. On Saturday, Krista and her group of the Farm City Week Committee are putting on the Prospect Show, and it's always great to see young people in Manatee County and to show their cattle and to work in that area. In fact, Elaine Mason, is Elaine here today? Yep, there she is. She is part and parcel of all of that. And so we were very proud of her. So come out to that event if you have an opportunity. We've been involved in agriculture over our lifetime. I taught ag at Palmetto High School. Even my lovely wife, who's from a faraway state of New Jersey, like so many people in Florida are, she is opened the Manatee County Agricultural Museum with Miss Kolonesko, and it is still there today. So she has got a couple more years before retirement, so we're very proud of her as well. So Manatee County has been part and parcel of Florida's agricultural community for a long time. Thank you very much, and we appreciate the opportunity of coming out and speaking with you today. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for your service to the Farm City Week Committee in Manatee County. And next, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Jim Strickland. Many of you may know him. I've got a little bio for you, because if you do know him, you know he's involved in a few things. That's right. Have a seat. You can come back up in a minute. He's involved in a lot of different things, and so I just want to take a moment and recognize that. Jim Strickland is a Manatee County native and multi-generation rancher. He's a past president of Florida Cattlemen's Association, past chairman of Florida Cattlemen's Foundation. He is the vice chairman of Florida Conservation Group and a past Manatee County Agriculturist of the Year. He is a past property appraiser for Manatee County Property Appraiser's Office. He's the co-chairman of the Florida Climate Smart Agriculture Group. He is a member of the Florida Manatee County Farm Bureau for the last 28 years and sat on that board. He is the past chairman of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association Political Action Committee. He is involved in the American Farm Bureau International Think Tank, the Florida Farm Bureau International Trade Committee past chairman, and UF-IFA's Florida Land Steward Award winner. He also won the Florida Department of Agriculture Rancher of the Year, Audubon Society Sustainable Ranch of the Year. He is a board member of the Florida Cattle Ranchers, supplying Florida beef all across Florida. Jim is past owner of Strickland Ranch and Exports, which shipped live cattle and horses all around the world. Jim has a passion for cattle, conservation, and the future of Florida. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jim Strickland.
Thank you. So whenever the Farm City Week was first started, that was 1955, I happened to have been born right over there during that year, and there's been a heck of a lot of changes since I was born in agriculture in Manatee County. I want to thank the Farm City Week, Kiwanis. Kiwanis has been such a big part of the life and the interest and the projects in Manatee County. It was always a pleasure. I was the ag appraiser for Charlie Hackney, and to me he was one of the finest politicians that I knew, that he let me do my job, and I did all the agricultural appraisals for Manatee County, and he was a gentleman, and I really was very blessed to have had that opportunity. I had gotten into a horse wreck. I had 28 broken bones. And the only expertise I had was a little bit of real estate. And I had my real estate license and a little bit of appraisal. So I wish Charlie was here with us because he was a mentor of mine. So whenever I kind of started out, we were always in the cattle business. We never owned a lot of land. We leased a lot of land. At times we'd have 30, 40, 50,000 acres of land leased back in those days, and we rode horses a lot. And I started out riding horses when I was 8 or 9 years old, but Shetland ponies was the first one. So Dad took me one day out by Bradenton River, and he said, "I'm going to get you a horse." And it was a little gray mare named Gray Lady, best horse ever. And he said, "I'll see you at the house." Well, Bradenton River was over here. We lived by Palmasola Bay. So right here where we are, I rode my horse at 13 years old. I rode my horse all the way to where we kept it in West Bradenton. We looked like the Beverly Hillbillies in West Bradenton, except with no money. We had an onion field and the sweet potatoes in the side yard. So, so I grew up a cattle rancher, not a farmer. I don't know how to farm. I don't know how to grow anything, but I do truly love a cow and big country and a horse. I really do. It wasn't too long after that I was on that same little gray mare that I rode to West Bradenton, and I was riding south of State Road 70. By the way, State Road 70 was a very narrow 2-lane gravel, dirt, shell road that nobody went down. And I was riding through there, and there was a line of stakes that went through the Palmetto Flatwoods and had a little ribbon on it. And back then, I think the Caruso Ranch was about 6,000 acres right there where I-75 and 70 cross. And I went back to Red Kilcrease, which was one of my mentors, and he was the foreman for Dad. And I said, I was down there in the woods looking for a bull, and what's that line of stakes that's going through the middle of nowhere? And he goes, oh, they're going to build a road. Well, that was I-75. So I was riding a horse in Littlewood Stakes about every 200 or 300 yards, just before I-75. I'm showing my age. I'm 66. By the way, before I forget it, this is the year to celebrate the birthplace of the cattle industry in North America. In 1521, Ponce de Leon landed with the first cattle and the first hogs down there around Charlotte Harbor. Got hit by an arrow for probably a Calusa Indian, went back to Cuba, and he died. But that was what we did. And she spoke that I did an international trade thing, and I was around the world. We had an office in Lahore, Pakistan, Guyana, Ghana, Costa Rica. But everywhere I went, whenever they'd see me with a cowboy hat, somebody would invariably say, Texas? I'm like, hell no, I'm not from Texas. I've never even heard, where's this Texas you speak of? And I was like, well, where are you from? I was like, Florida. I'm from the birthplace of the cattle industry in all North America. Always led to some interesting conversation. This year is, I won't say it's a turning point. That the emphasis that we're putting on is preservation of land, the pathway to preservation or the pathway to conservation. Manatee County has a long history of doing it right. And if you look back to what they did with Lake Manatee, and we've got some county commissioners here, and those county commissioners did it right. They got the land. We have a great resource. We have a source not only for water for here, but for Sarasota County. They prepared for the future. And then they went to Duet, and they bought Duet Park, which they then protected the watershed leading into that primary water source for 2 counties. And it was such foresight. And I hope that all the leaders in the future have that kind of foresight because we need it. Growth is inevitable. We are not anti-growth. I don't think you'll find many people in agriculture that are anti-growth or anti-building, but we believe in what we do. And what we do is a very slim margin of profit. So we have not a whole lot of options for our land if you're a big landowner. I'm leasing land. I've been blessed to be partner with some people that own a lot of land. But we need to address that. I think it's a great subject, a great topic, and it's one that into the future we'll have to continue to look at that. So here we are now. We finally got to a point where Governor DeSantis is embracing sea level rise and global warming. He's putting budget things, the last legislative session. He has money put to, to the coastal communities. Biden-Harris is putting quite a bit of money into it. And so we do believe that there is change. There is things that are happening in the world we live in, and we need to address those and address them scientifically, not anecdotally. We need to address them scientifically. I have a high school education, but I actually truly appreciate all those folks that have done the science, done the work, got the degrees, and then put it to work to better us. So what does this all have to do with Farm City Week? If you're going to keep these farms sustainable, we have to keep them profitable. And that doesn't mean just giving them money. We want to help. That agriculture really wants to help. We want to be there. We want to walk side by side with whoever you are, whether you're a developer or whether you're a, whatever you are, because this is our community. And you can call our community America, you can call it Florida, or you can call it Manatee County. I look at all of them as our community. So here we are. So how did a guy with a cowboy mentality get tied up in conservation with some of the things I'm doing? And it came whenever we bought a large piece of property, and I'm happen to be the manager of it, and we were looking to monetize it because that's my job, is monetizing it. We can hold it and we can sell it later, but there's other options that we wanted to explore. And when we did, we found out that some of the options were conservation easements or cost share practices. Conservation easement is where some entity, usually a government, could have been a state, could have been a federal, possibly a water management district, comes in, and for the betterment of society, those 21.5 million people that live in Florida, for the betterment of those folks, we are going to buy the development rights on a piece of ranch land, timberland, or farmland to where it is perpetually going to be a green space. That sounds good, but what good is a green space? I mean, what does it serve? Well, their job was to enumerate why we needed to buy it, to rank those properties on conservation easements. Well, when we bought one property, we wanted to do 2 or 3 easements on it. We found out that right then there was not a lot of funding, so then we went down the route of we hired lobbyists. We hired some lobbyists in Washington, we hired some lobbyists in Tallahassee, and we said, how can we advocate and educate, probably not the best word is educate, but bring forth ideas on how to have a balance. We know growth is going to happen. We're probably going to partake in some of this growth on some of the land that we have, but at the same time, we feel like there needs to be a balance for those future generations. I have a goddaughter 4, I have a granddaughter that's 4. I'm taking a real interest into them. So what we did, we formed a nonprofit, Florida Conservation Group, and of course we made it up of scientists and ranchers. We immediately had 3 million acres that signed up with us. Basically, they were all my friends across Florida that said, you can put my name forth and use my acreage on the list when you advocate for cost share practices to help keep farms and ranches sustainable and conservation easement funding. So it was formed with Julie Morris, which is an ecologist. Also, she is the head of National Wildlife Refuge Association, which she covers the Gulf of Mexico and all of Florida, and Lefty Durando. You may see Doyle Carlton's name around Tampa. He was a former governor of Florida. It's one of his descendants. And so we formed this group. We have 3 million acres. So when we walked into a politician's office, we could say, we're just a few scientists and ranchers, but we're advocating for these things that we think are important. This is Florida, is Florida ranches and Florida timberland. Never leave out the smaller ones because the horticulturalists, the sod farms, and all those certainly lend itself to what we do. So we had several meetings, and we found out that a lot of times that it sounds like every environmentalist in the room is together, but they're not. Everybody has an agenda. No matter who you are, what entity you're in, you're going to have an agenda. But we brought the largest group to the ranch, and we facilitated 27 environmental groups that all of them, after a long time, stood up and said, you can represent us 27 from the Nature Conservancy, Sierra Club, Florida Native Plant Society, to Florida Conservation, all these different ones, said, we believe in one thing, and that is conservation, so help us. So we did. So we did as best we can, as what we could on getting funding. Now there was two entities we were looking for funding for. The governor heads up Florida Department of Environmental Protection, of which he appoints the head of that. And they actually oversee all lands in Florida. If you really want to do something in a water management district, you get their blessing. State parks, you kind of get their blessing. So we worked with them. They had a really great program called Florida Forever, and it did conservation easements, but it needed funding. So we worked to get them funding. The other one was Rural Family Lands, which is Florida Department of Agriculture. We tried to get them funding. From there, then, I got tied in with this climate group, and I'm not the guy with a black cowboy hat that I'm going to put silver tinfoil on my hat and run through the world saying the sky is falling. But I do see change. And sitting on the board of an insurance company, we are looking at changing our rates, or maybe not insuring some of those folks that live close to the coast. So, you know, these different things are changing. So I became the elected co-chair of the University of Florida Climate Smart Committee. Our group was just in Glasgow, Scotland at the COPA meeting. We interacted with world leaders all around the world last week and a little bit the week before. But what we're wanting to do now, we took it that next step. And here's the next step. You've probably all heard of eat more beef, you know, the kind of the granny woman that, you know, said, eat more beef, eat more beef. Or you've seen our signs that say, eat more beef, or where's the beef? So we're taking it that step further. What we are doing now through University of Florida and a lot of foundations that are help funding us, one of which is the Turner Foundation, the Volo Foundation, the Hydro Foundation, that are funding us, and we are looking for funding for University of Florida for their landscape level conservation group. And it's going to be about $4 million a year to do this, what I'm getting ready to say. Our future is not on the cow. Our future is what we do for you. So we are less than 1.5%. We're at 0.5% of the population. So how do we affect 21.5 million people in the state of Florida? We don't have a lot of clout. We don't have a lot of money. We don't have a lot of people. But what we do have is what nature gave us. What nature gave us, we need to quantify, and so here it is. We're looking at what our ranches do for carbon sequestration. We know that it's coming. We're looking at our land for water filtration. We know that water is the key to success for Florida. We are looking at water storage. We're now looking at endangered species habitat. We're looking at wildlife corridors, and you may be reading about wildlife corridors recently, and actually on our board is the godfather of the wildlife corridor. He's the one that actually came up with the wildlife corridor, and he sits on our board and a very dear friend and an advisor. Also, we wanted to take it a step further and start quantifying those things that we do that you don't notice. What is a ranch worth? Usually a family of four would pull off the side of the road, and I use family of four because I'm old enough that, you know, that was the family of four. And you go, boy, isn't this a beautiful scene? It's a pastoral scene, and look at those beautiful cows. I want them to now stop, and I want the kids, if they're of age, to be able to tell their parents and say, wait a minute, not only is it a beautiful scene, but they provide habitat for endangered species. Wildlife corridors, which are documented, that go back and two across the state. Whether you like a black bear or a panther or not, there's other species that need a wildlife corridor. You're looking at rehydration of aquifers, depending on where you're at. You're looking at water storage. You're looking at water filtration. You're looking at all those things that we can do. You're looking at oxygen. I want to take this and make it into a ball of layers to where we can use LIDAR, radar, topo, soil types, forage, what kind of trees, where you're at, North Florida, South Florida, and work through University of Florida through their landscape level conservation, which we now have about 15 professors working on that project now. Right now, they are working on it really hard, and we still have a lot of groups that want to help fund us. Then we'll have that balance. What we talk about, the pathway to preservation or the pathway to conservation, we will have the ability to go to that rancher and say, not only are you doing this, but you're also doing that. How are we going to get paid for it to keep us profitable, to keep us sustainable, we have to let that 21.5 million people know what we do for you on a daily basis that is so passive that you just don't see what we're doing. We are part of the problem. Farmers, ranchers, timber people, grove owners, sugarcane farmers, we are definitely part of the problem. But so is anybody that has a septic tank, anybody that has common areas, anybody that does plastic, all those different things. We're all in this together. I don't care whether you're a cowboy or a chef, you know, a developer or you're a farmer. You know, we're all in this together. We just need a balance here in Florida. And that's what we're trying to do. One of the things we're doing now in our group is nutrient research. We want to know, when we talk about red tide, and we talk about the nutrients that come down, whether it's the Hillsborough River, Manatee River, Peace River, or Myakka River, we want to know who is doing what and why. Is it septic tanks causing the problem? Is it runoff from a farm? Is it cattle manure? We want to know. So part of our project at University of Florida is doing that, to where we can answer your questions. It's not going to happen this year, but it is going to happen, because that's what's going to keep us in business, helping, you know, to help you. Asphalt and rooftops will not help. If you do believe in climate change, if you do believe in global warming, if you do all these things, it ain't going to help. It is not going to help. But it's inevitable and it's needed, because we have a huge opportunity here with our developments. And there's a lot of people that survive on developments. What we're saying is we just need a balance, is recognize those things. It's not a partisan issue to save water. It's not a partisan issue to save wildlife. It's not a partisan issue to sequester carbon. One of the things I'll leave you with, and if you drive home, think about this. We're celebrating 500 years of cattle ranching in the state of Florida. Every single house in Florida used to be a cattle ranch. Other than a few barrier islands, or where we literally dug the swamp, piled it up, but we were a free-range state. There were no fences. So every single house used to be a cattle ranch. So history tells us that the next development will probably come from an agricultural operation. We just need to realize that and say, if we're going to build this, let's save this. That's kind of what we're looking at from a ranching standpoint, a conservation standpoint. We talk about landowners, and I just want to make sure that a lot of us are out here managing a lot of land. We are not rich. We're managing land. If you do own land, a lot of us are not making a tremendous amount of money, particularly off of a cow. But the next best thing to pristine wilderness is a cattle ranch. There's nothing better. There's nothing better than a cattle ranch next to a state park. So that's why it's really vital for the cattle ranches and timberland. We don't put a lot of phosphate fertilizer on our ranches. But the landowner's aspect, never forget that every single person in this room is a big landowner. I'm adamant about that. That government does not own that land. You are the ones that provided the funding to buy those, whether it's city, whether it's county, whether it's state, whether it's federal lands. Your taxes, what you did, the votes that you did, the people you elected are the ones that decided that. We're all in this together. So whether you own a 10,000-acre ranch or not, you own a lot of state parks. You manage a lot of state parks. Robinson Preserve, that isn't owned by the county commissioners. That's owned by you, the citizens. And they've done a great job. That's a great piece, that a job has been well done. Duet Park was well done. The ability for this county to raise funds for that environmental fund to buy those specific lands is very special. Sarasota County has the same thing going. So I think it is really, really a great time to be alive. We've come out of the pandemic. Interest rates are low. Everybody seems to be coming together. So I guess if I had just one last message, just remember, every single house used to be a cattle ranch. You will never see a bulldozer bulldozing down a subdivision to become a pristine ranch. It is not going to happen, and it just won't happen. So when you stop with that family of 4, 3, 2, or 1, just think about those things that passive green space is doing for you, because one day soon we're going to be able to tell you what we return to the citizens of Florida. Thank you. It is a super honor to be here. Thank y'all.
Good afternoon. My name's Krista Kirby. I'm a Farm City Week committee member and also the Livestock Extension Agent here in Manatee County. It is my pleasure today to introduce you to our 2021 Agriculturalist of the Year. Today's nominee is a 6th-generation Manatee County resident who is a descendant of James and Mary Williams, who were original homesteaders of Manatee County. Mr. and Miss Williams originally settled in Terracea, later moving to the Rice settlement on the Manatee River. This is where our nominee spent most of his life. At the age of 13, Cliff Coddington discovered his passion for cattle through his great-grandfather, who started him in the cattle business. Shortly after graduation from Southeast High School and attending the former Manatee Junior College, he went to work for Schroeder Manatee Ranch as a ranch hand and equipment operator. During his 25 years of service, he worked his way up through the ranks to the cattle, farm lease, and Bahia sod manager. At the time, Schroeder Manatee Ranch was a 28,000-acre diversified agriculture operation. At their peak, they ran over 3,000 head of mama cows. And during this time, at Schroeder Manatee Ranch, Cliff was able to improve the herd genetics and transform the herd into a highly productive Brangus herd. Today, this ranch is better known as Lakewood Ranch. In January of 2005, Cliff went to work for Buster Longino at Longino Ranch in eastern Sarasota County as the general manager. Longino Ranch is a vast family-owned agriculture operation in eastern Sarasota County, just across the Manatee County line. Along with cattle, he has diversified the operations at Longino Ranch to include rangeland management, timber, tortoise relocation sites, a wetland mitigation bank, an upland credit source, citrus, alligator egg collection, wildlife management, real estate, along with farming and sod operations. Under Cliff's direction, Longino Ranch was awarded the Farm Bureau Cares Award for voluntarily implementing best management practices and promoting environmentally sound and economically viable farming and ranching practices. Whenever asked, Cliff does not hesitate to assist with educational programming. For example, he has hosted, provided, and worked cattle for our 3-day South Florida Beef Forage Reproductive Management School, along with hosting numerous other educational programs and ranch tours for UF-IFAS, 4-H, FFA, Junior Cattlemen's Association, along with many other entities. In addition to his work at Longino Ranch, Cliff owns and manages a personal cattle herd in his spare time. Cliff is also very active in many community organizations, serving on advisory committees for the UF-IFAS Manatee County Extension Livestock Program, UF-IFAS Range Cattle Research and Education Center, and the South Florida Beef Forage Program. He has been involved with many research trials for UF as they relate to predators, cattle, and forages, for example. Cliff is currently serving as the president of the Florida Cattlemen's Association and serves on the Mandatory Electronic ID Task Force, among many other responsibilities. In the past, he has served as a Florida Beef Council board member, marketing committee chair, and on the Cattlemen's Beef Board, along with involvement in the Manatee County and state ranch rodeos. He is a past member of the Peace River Valley Citrus Growers Association Board and a Farm Bureau member. In 2017, Cliff was recognized for his partnership with UF-IFAS Extension and the agricultural community by being awarded the Florida Association of County Agricultural Agents Outstanding Agriculturalist Award. Outside of the cattle industry, Cliff is very active in his church, serving as a deacon, and has sat on several committees, including the Stewardship and Finance Committee. Cliff's nomination was summed up by saying, He has been a cowboy and a rancher for many years, but much more than that, he's an industry leader. Cliff and his wife Tara have 2 grown children, which are with them today, Samantha and Dalton, both of which are involved in the agricultural industry. It is my personal pleasure to honor and recognize Mr. Cliff Coddington as the 2021 Agriculturalist of the Year for Manatee County.
That was a way to present one. Got everybody's attention.
Sorry. Oh,
Like
over
we're-
here.
Oh,
Okay.
Thank you for this award. It's humbling. And, as I was sitting there thinking, our family, the Williamses settled in Terracea Bay. The Craigs farmed along the Manatee River on the north side. They came down on a land grant. And you think about change, what we've seen change in those years, till now. But I'm just blessed to be able to, be given the passion, through all ag. And I just thank y'all for this award. Thank you.
Well, it's been great, Farm City Week luncheon, and congratulations. Congratulations to also the Leadership Manatee for being here. I hope that you join us next year for this exciting and this memorable luncheon that we have for agriculture. And you don't have to wait until then. You can come back as a guest. You can join the club. We have this much fun every week. Sometimes we have more chairs and tables. Mostly do. But I do want to invite any of you that are interested to be here and to come back as a guest of this club. We have Jack Powers and Sharon Barhorst here, our membership committee, and they'll be happy to talk to you that in the future. But again, I want to congratulate Mr. Coddington and for the award. Also, Miss Anderson, where is she? There she is, for the Hall of Fame inductee. I want to thank all of you for being here. I want you to have a safe rest of the week and have a safe and happy Thanksgiving with your family. And without anything else, we are adjourned.